Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Becca and today I'm going to be talking about some fantasy books that I'm excited to read soon, eventually, kind of. I really previously have been a very heavy fantasy reader, but lately I've been reading so much romance that it's kind of been taking a backseat. And I have collected quite a few books that I would like to read soon because that's why I buy them. I have a list here of 10 fantasy books that I would like to read soon, or fantasy series that I would like to continue with soon. So without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about some fantasy reads. So first, I'll just go ahead and talk about the two series that I have started that I'd really like to continue with soon. First, I have the second book of the Seven Waters trilogy. This is The Son of the Shadows by Juliette Marillier. Look at that cover. I mean, it's fantastic. I'm so excited to continue reading the series. Daughter of the Forest is the first book in the series and I absolutely loved it. I will say check your trigger warnings for it because it is a bit of a tough read. But it was so well done, and I just really enjoyed it, so I can't wait to continue reading in the series. I know this book follows not the main character of the first book, so that's exciting too, to get a different perspective. Basically, what is the overarching theme is that this group of children, their mother dies, and so their father decides to remarry, and the mother ends up being like an evil sorceress and tries to get rid of them. So the first book is about the sister of all of the siblings, and she's basically going on this journey to kind of save her brothers from something that happens. I don't want to spoil it, but if you like kind of medieval, like Scottish, Irish kind of fantasy, I'd really recommend this series. It's not very hard fantasy to get into. It's much more character based. There's not a lot of heavy like magic system or you know, a lot of things to keep track of, at least with the first book. This is only a trilogy, so I'm not assuming that it's going to be that crazy, but I do highly recommend it, especially if you like some like hard-hitting themes. These books are so good, so I'm excited to continue with the series. And then of course, obvious, I am going to read Words of Radiance soon. This is the second book in the Stormlight Archive series by Brandon Sanderson. The first book is The Way of Kings, which I finished last year, and this book is a chunker, but I've heard like a lot of people say this is their favorite of the series so far, so I am excited to read it. It's just like, it's so long. I don't love long books, and the fact that this is going to be a very long series is even more intimidating to me. I do not finish series, obviously. It's been a while since I've read the first book and I still haven't read the second one. And kind of hard to give you a kind of overarching theme of this series. I will say that this series is going to be a lot trickier for people who haven't read fantasy yet, or who aren't really into fantasy. And if you want to try to get into fantasy, I do not recommend starting with this series. Brandon Sanderson's other series might work better for you, but this is going to be like a 10+ book series, so it's gonna be a little hard to get into if you're new to fantasy. But I really enjoyed the first book. The ending was just like amazing, and I can't wait to read this one, hopefully soon. And then finally, let's go ahead and talk about the other books that I would really like to read soon. All of these books that I have purchased. One of them I purchased as an ebook, but the other ones I have bought recently, so I feel like I should read them soon. And first we'll talk about the YA fantasy that is on this list, which is only 2 books because I haven't been reading a lot of YA, but these books really drew me in. So first I have Graceling by Kristen Kishore. Honestly, I was not really interested in reading this series because the covers of the older editions, like, they did not appeal to me at all. And, you know, don't judge a book by its cover, but like, I did. But I saw that they redid all of the covers and this book cover is just beautiful, so it makes me want to read it more. I don't really know much about this book. I do know that like the main character has like a special power, I think, or something like that. And that the rest of the series kind of follows different characters within the world, and I really like that in fantasy. I don't really love reading a fantasy series that like drags out a character's, you know, journey, because it can get a little boring or dramatic, too dramatic, you know. I'm thinking like Outlander, if you've read those books. Too much. But anyway, I'm really excited to read these. I've also heard that there is a touch of romance in them, and we all know I love romance, so I'm really excited to get into these. And that kind of also follows with A Curse So Dark and Lonely by Brigid Kemmerer. This is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and our main character has cerebral palsy, and she lives in Washington, D.C. and then gets sucked into this magical world where the, you know, Beauty and the Beast, you know. So I'm really excited to read this one. I've also heard that the series is fantastic. I've heard so many people gush about the series, and not just people who are fantasy readers or YA readers. I've heard adults who love this book, adults who only read like contemporary or historical fiction, rave about this book. And I feel like that's just the sign of a fantastic novel, if it can reach people of different demographics who just read different types of books and still love this one. So that's really exciting, and I do love a Beauty and the Beast retelling. There are so many, and a lot of them are just so good, and I mean some of them are not, but I just really love the tropes of it, and I'm excited to get into this one. And then the rest of these books are all adult fantasy. I want to say all but one of them is a series. And yeah, I'm doing this to myself. So we'll go ahead and start out with A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness. This book has been out for a very long time now, and I was never really interested in it, but I recently, I feel like was it last year maybe? I saw like a couple of trailer teasers for the show, and it looked really good. So I was like, I think I want to try it, and I've heard like the rest of the series isn't as good, but that doesn't bother me. That means I can just stop at this one. But I do know that this has a vampire and witch main character. There is a romance in this, and I'm really excited to read this. I feel like I might actually read it during Halloween season, because that would be the time, right, to get in that vibe, Halloween vibe. So I am excited about this. I know it also has a lot to do, yeah, with Oxford's Bodleian Library. You know, I used to be a librarian, so there you go. And then the next book I have is The Fifth Season by M.K. Jemisin. I am so excited to read this series. I've heard so many good things, and also I'm pretty sure this is the series, the Broken Earth trilogy, where she won the Hugo Award for Best Novel for every single book, which I think is amazing. And I feel like that's gotta say something. But I'm really excited. I know that I believe there's like a god system in this trilogy, or maybe that's her other trilogy. I don't know, but I've heard great things, and I'm excited to read it. It starts with the Great Red Rift across the heart of the world's sole continent, spewing ash that blots out the sun. It starts with death, with a murdered son and a missing daughter. It starts with betrayal and long dormant wounds rising up to fester. This is the stillness, a land familiar with catastrophe, where the power of the earth is wielded as a weapon, and where there is no mercy. It kind of reminds me of the Mistborn trilogy, I think of Brandon Sanderson, and the like effects of the world on, you know, like the characters. So that sounds really interesting to me, because I loved that in that series. So I'm really excited to read this book. Next book that I'm excited to read, this was definitely a book talk recommendation auto buy for me. This is Jade City by Fonda Lee. I follow somebody on Instagram, and I'll try to find the specific post where she did like an outfit based on the book, and I thought it was really cool. But regardless, this I know is a reminiscent of the best classic Hong Kong gangster films, and that is what I initially heard about this book. And gangster films, wherever it takes place, doesn't really appeal to me. In a fantasy, I thought that was very strange, but I heard a lot more about this book, and then I heard there was also a romance, and I was like, heck yes! So I'm really excited to see what all the hype is about this book. I'm hoping I don't get let down by that hype, but I think it's going to be a good one, and this is also a trilogy. Honestly, also when I looked at this book, just looking at the cover, it made me think of Wizard of Oz because of the green, so first impressions there. The next book I have is The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. Now, I'm really excited about this book because I know that this first one in the book at least takes place in like an academic setting, like a magic school, which I am really excited about. I haven't read one of those in a really long time. I have also heard this one is really dark, so check your trigger warnings if you read this. I myself... Oh, that's cool. There's a blurb on the back of it by Fonda Lee. History and myth to tell a relentlessly unforgiving story of war, vengeance, power, and madness, with larger-than-life characters that evoke sympathy and rouse terror. Brace yourself. I feel like when I do read this, it's going to suck me in and keep me until I finish. So definitely excited to read this. I just really love the cover, so. I don't usually buy hardback books. If you noticed, all of the other books have been paperback, so you know I was really excited to read this book when I bought it in a hardcover. And my last physical book that I have for this list of fantasy books that I'm excited to read, The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. This is a standalone. I'm 99% sure this is a standalone. And that makes me happy because I just don't finish series often, and if I do, it takes me forever. Like, I can't think of the last time I finished a fantasy series. Let's sit here and think. I mean, Mistborn was probably the last one I finished. Or A Court of Thorns and Roses, I guess. But it's still ongoing, so that one doesn't technically count, I guess. But still, like, it does not happen often for me. So to find a book that is, like, super hyped. I know so many people love this book. I'm glad that it's a standalone, even though, like, it is gigantic. This book, whew, when I start reading this, it's going to take me a while. It's over 800 pages, so we'll see about this. I honestly... Let's read the back of this book together, because it'll be the first time for me, even though I've owned this book for a while now. The House of Berethnet has ruled Innis for 1,000 years. Still unwed, Queen Sabran IX must conceive a daughter to protect her realm from destruction, but assassins are getting closer to her door. Okay, first off, I love this, that the ruler is a woman, okay? Ed Durian is an outsider at court, though she has risen to the position of lady-in-waiting. She is loyal to a hidden society of mages. Ed keeps a watchful eye on Sabran, secretly protecting her with forbidden magic. Across the dark sea, Tane has trained to be a dragon rider since she was a child, but is forced to make a choice that could see her life unravel. Meanwhile, the divided East and West refuse to parley, and forces of chaos are rising from their sleep. This sounds amazing. And now I understand why it's 800 pages, because that is a lot going on. Also, just like the cover, the dragon is amazing. I wonder who the artist is. Emily Faccini. Congratulations, Emily. That is a beautiful dragon. Anyway, I'm so excited to read this book. That just kind of really just pushed it to the top of my list almost. I'm excited that it seems to be a story that's all women. We don't really get that a lot in fantasy, so that's really exciting. So yeah, really excited about this one. And then the last book that I have to talk about today is of Brass by S.A. Chakraborty. This book I've seen for a while. I think the first one came out in 2017, so it's been around for a while now, and I've seen so many people talk about it. But it's a trilogy, so I was like, meh, I don't know. And then I heard that there was a romance, and I was like, okay, you've caught my interest. I think this also is another story that is really like woman-centric focused, so that's exciting. I also know that it takes place in like Egypt or like that part of the world, which is really exciting because I don't think that I've ever read a book that's set there. I can't think of one. So that's really exciting too. But I'm excited to read a fantasy that has different mythology, different inspiration from another part of the world. And I think, so this would make it a low fantasy because it takes place in our world. But anyway, I'm really excited about this trilogy, especially now that it's finished. And I think it's gonna be a really good one. This one also is very long. I mean, the books I think are pretty long, so that's a little intimidating. Long books. Only 3 books in a series though, so like, it's a good one. We'll see what happens. I'm really excited to start reading it soon. I think the first book on this list, I mean, God, The Priory of the Orange Tree, I don't know, but this one has also been on my list really recently. I don't remember who I heard talking about it, but they were talking about the series as a whole, and it just like sounded so good to me. And that is it for this video. 10 fantasy books that I'd like to start reading eventually soon, kind of. They are all on my TBR, some of them kind of more recently than others, but some I've bought like auto buy as soon as I saw the recommendation, bought it, and then haven't read it. You know, story of my life. I feel like a lot of us might feel the same way. So yeah, I'm excited to read these books. If you've read any of them, I'm interested in your thoughts. If you have an opinion of where I should start, I have a feeling I'm going to get words of Radiance in the comments. So let me know if you've read any of these books, and if you've read all of them, what would be your top 3? If you've read all of them, I'm pretty impressed, I will say that. Anyway, I hope you liked this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. If you've made it this far in the video, put a little dragon emoji in the comments, or your favorite kind of fantasy element emoji, if it's an emoji. Put that in the comments. Okay, and thank you for sticking around to the end, and I'll see you in a new video soon. Bye!